Welcome to Legally Agile with Chris Werner.
Here's a question that's worth asking at your next leadership meeting. Who owns AI inside of your organization? Now, I'm not asking who's interested in it or who has an opinion about it, but who owns it, meaning who has the decision-making authority when a question comes up about a new AI tool, whether it's approved or not, whether a particular use case is something that is approved, or whether your company's AI practices are consistent with your legal and contractual obligations. Most organizations, when I ask this question, I get one of two responses. I either get a long pause because they haven't really thought about that question, or I get a list of 5 departments or functions that have some stake in it, right? And both of those things are a problem because without an individual who has the ownership of it, there's a really real governance gap in your AI, and it becomes a hard problem to solve. My name's Chris Werner. I'm a business attorney and advisor, and I work with companies all the time on their AI governance policy to make sure that they're building the right legal infrastructure that makes AI adoption both fast and sustainable for the company. Today, I want to talk about why AI accountability is so hard to assign and give you a workable model for how to figure out where you should assign that AI responsibility. So, before I talk about what it looks like to assign ownership, I want to talk about why it's hard to assign because the difficulty is structural, right? So, AI governance sits at the cross section of a lot of organizational functions. Um, each of them is going to have a real claim on some portion of AI. So, legal is going to have a claim on AI because it touches your contracts and your intellectual property and liability. Your regulatory compliance team is going to have a claim because AI could impact audits and your exposure for and your policy enforcement. Your IT team and security team are definitely going to have a stake in this because it touches on your computer infrastructure and often involves sensitive company information that's being shared. Um, Obviously, your privacy team is going to want to have some stake in it. And your business units themselves, the ones that are actually using the tool, are going to have a huge say in it. Um, and in a mature organization, all of these teams they already have their own reporting lines and they already have their own priorities. So the AI governance, they all have an idea about what that should look like. And none of them are wrong, but they're only looking at pieces of the problem. So this reminds me of the old sort of parable of the blind men all touching different parts of an elephant, and they can't agree on what it is that they're touching. It's because they're only looking at a portion of the problem. The issue is coordination. When a new AI tool comes into play, which of those functions reviews it first? And if there's a conflict, say between what legal thinks is appropriate and what the business team wants, who makes that final decision? If an employee has a question about a specific use case of a tool, who do they go to ask? Um, and what if a tool is permitted for one thing or not another? How do they resolve that conflict? So, having someone assigned to ownership helps resolve that question. And if you don't have anyone assigned, it's very difficult to ever resolve those things. Um, so, not all these questions have clear answers. And in most organizations, unfortunately, AI right now is a series of informal negotiations between the functions. Um, Sometimes that works, but often it produces inconsistent at best results. Um, and they often are not, the final decision often doesn't satisfy anyone. And it may miss things that your legal or your compliance team thinks are necessary, or it may not function the way that your business team needs it to function. The other reason that AI governance is responsibility is so hard is because it doesn't cleanly fit into anyone's existing job, right? Um, if you ask, for example, legal to own it, you're asking them to own an entirely new thing on top of everything else it's already doing and managing organizational risk. The same is true for your compliance team or your IT team. Uh, those functions should all be involved in your AI governance decisions, but there are ones that are already stretched very thin. So oftentimes, unfortunately, accountability doesn't clearly get assigned. And it's not because leadership isn't serious about it, but it's because assigning it means giving somebody else new responsibilities. And if you're not also providing them the tools to do that job, it's a much harder conversation than simply asking someone to draft an AI policy. So what happens when accountability isn't clear? Let's talk about a few examples of things that can happen when accountability isn't clear. Um, Number one is decisions will get made by whoever is the most persistent. So let's say a business unit comes in and they want to implement a new AI tool. Legal has some concerns, IT has a different set of concerns, and your compliance team wants more information, right? Nobody has clear authority to approve or reject. So what usually happens is one of two things. Either the decision just doesn't get made and gets stalled out indefinitely. This is a problem because it frustrates your business units who are trying to actually do their job, and it tells them that your corporate governance is an obstacle and it's not something that is a framework that's going to help them make good decisions. Or what could happen is your business unit sees that nothing is happening and they just decide to move forward with the tool anyway, um, because they have a deadline to meet and they're trying to get things done efficiently and they're under pressure and it seems fine to them. So either of these things is a problem. Either you're not getting things done and you're losing pace to your competition, or you have individual teams just implementing whatever they want, and you're quietly building up a huge amount of risk within your company. The second thing that can happen if you don't have your AI clearly assigned to somebody is you're going to get inconsistent decisions and inconsistent exposure. So, without clear ownership, you could have similar decisions giving different answers, right? So, depending on who's involved in that decision. So, for example, one business team gets is using a particular tool because they bypassed legal, and another business team is told they can't do it because legal said no. Or you get somebody who's pushing harder just gets the tool in place, while others don't get to use it. And the inconsistency isn't just an internal problem. Yes, it's frustrating internally for your various teams if they're getting different answers from different people, but there's also a legal exposure there. So your teams may inadvertently be doing things that don't match with your contractual obligations to your customers and clients. And when someone comes to evaluate how you're using the AI tools and what you're implementing, it becomes very difficult to justify these inconsistent decisions. So the third thing that can happen is if no one has ownership, you're um, you are never updating your AI governance model, and that's a huge problem. So um, drafting an AI policy is a one-time thing, but your governance model is an ongoing project that needs maintenance and it needs someone continually monitoring it. Um, these things, AI is moving quickly, and the environment is changing all the time, daily and weekly. There are big changes in what's going on in the world of AI. Um, if no one owns the governance model, no one is going to update that process, and your policies are going to quickly go stale. If your approved tool lists don't get reviewed, they become worthless very quickly. Um, Your vendor agreements with your AI vendors also need constant monitoring and review because these agreements are updated all the time, and you need to know when there are significant changes that actually affect your business. This gap is going to widen, right, as you go. If you're not updating your governance model, you're going to get more and more drift from where you started to where the tools sit on any particular day. And you're not going to realize that until a problem comes up, right? Either you have a customer question, or you have an investigation, or you have some sort of incident. And trying to then go back and fix that is going to be expensive and time consuming, and is possibly opening you up to liability. So let's talk about what a workable AI ownership model looks like. And I want to do it in a way that is not going to require a new department or a new hire. I want to do it in a way that is workable for most organizations. So, in order to do that, you want to look at four basic questions. Okay. The first question is, who anchors the governance function, right? So in most organizations, the answer to that is going to be your legal or compliance team. It's not because legal and compliance are sort of leading the charge on business AI initiatives, but they are probably in the best position to maintain the framework for your AI governance model. Um, Legal understands various contracts and regulatory obligation, and they're best positioned to have an ongoing understanding of those things. Um, so, most likely, your AI governance should live with someone in your legal or compliance team. Now, that doesn't mean that the legal approves every single AI decision. But it does mean that legal sets the framework within which the decisions get made. And legal is the escalation point when the framework doesn't answer every question clearly, and when there's an issue that needs to be resolved. So, the second thing you need to ask yourself on ownership of your AI governance is, who participates and in what capacity? So if you've said, okay, legal is going to own the governance function, but they're not operating in a vacuum. So effective AI governance requires participation from other teams. Obviously, your IT team is going to be involved, your business unit is going to be involved, and maybe your privacy team, if you have a separate privacy team, is going to have something to say, or your vendor procurement team, right? So all of these should have a role in in your AI governance, but that role needs to be defined. It's important that you specifically define what each of those teams is going to do in your governance model. Um, you want to know which teams are providing advice and which teams are making the final decision. Does somebody have veto power? And if so, under what circumstances does that team have veto power? So, if you're going to give your IT team veto power, you should know specifically what circumstances trigger IT's veto. All right. Um, if you define that process, you're going to have an effective and consistent workflow. And if you don't define that process, you're going to be slow and inconsistent, and you're going to add risk to your company. So the third question you should answer is, um, what decisions require governance involvement, and at what level? So not every AI decision requires full review by the full team, right? You should have some sort of tiered decision framework in place that people can operate within, right? So there should be low risk decisions that maybe can be approved just within a business unit, right? Under defined circumstances, low risk decisions, maybe that can be approved on its own. There should then be like a medium risk tier where there is a streamlined or light touch review process. Again, clearly defined, but designed to be streamlined and light touch. And then there should be sort of a higher risk tier where there is a full review by all of the teams involved. And this should be reserved for things that really are sort of very high risk, either for your organization or to your customers' information or maybe financial information. So you want to decide where those thresholds sit of those decisions because you want to, again, be able to allow your teams to work efficiently with the new AI tools. Um, the fourth question that is critical to ask for your AI governance ownership is who owns the model over time? So most governance models, I don't see them very frequently, but when I do, they're almost all missing this, right? Who is going to update this model over time? So there's got to be an ongoing responsibility to someone to update things, to review what's actually going on. That approved vendor tool list, right? You want to make sure that is up to date at all times so that it's an easy reference point for all of your employees. You also, those risk thresholds, you want to update those over time. So, what is medium risk today in 6 to 12 months may be a low risk decision. I really think that that's going to be very important because as I see the AI tools evolving, I think that as we get more and more standardized and more adoption, we're going to discover that more and more things are standard and lower risk on that decision tier. Or maybe it goes from a high risk to a medium risk. But you want someone who's going to be looking at those things and making updates as appropriate. Um, if you don't specifically assign responsibility for updating your compliance model over time, it will never get done. And it's not gonna fall through the cracks because people don't care. It's gonna fall through the cracks because it's not clearly assigned to someone. It doesn't neatly fit into any one particular department, and all of the people who may have a stake in it have other priorities that they're paying attention to. So those are the four main questions you want to ask when you're deciding who owns your AI governance model. Now, I think that this is a real opportunity for teams within organizations, especially legal and compliance teams. So, those of us who spend a lot of time in the AI space have heard these predictions of all these jobs and all these job functions that are going to be taken over by AI. And one of the things in the legal community is there's this discussion about how much legal function is going to be taken over by AI tools. Um, Personally, I think there is going to be some things that are taken over, but I also think it's an opportunity for the legal teams to start providing even more value to companies and organizations. This is a perfect example. Owning your AI governance model is something that legal can do and add value to the team. This is an opportunity because it allows legal to design a governance model and maintain an ongoing governance model that actually allows a business to move faster adopting new tools and essentially become more efficient and more profitable. It also is a very real concrete way. If you get this right, you can make sure that you are moving ahead of your competition. Um, the organizations that handle AI governance best over time, over the next several years, are going to be the ones that design a robust AI governance model and assign ownership of that model so that it is a living procedure that evolves over time and can evolve to the adapting AI environment. So here's what I want you to take away from this episode. AI accountability, it's not going to assign itself, right? In most organizations, the question of who owns AI governance is being deferred, and it's not because people don't care. It's because it's a hard question to answer. It's a new function, and it sits at the intersection of several different departments. Um, you the correct answer is not to just tell everybody that they should participate and hope that they coordinate. You need to assign decision-making authority to somebody, and you need to assign responsibility over your AI governance model to specific individuals. Um, That's work, right? It's easy to sit and do an assignment that says, I'm going to design an AI policy, right? Whether it takes a day or a week or a month, right? That's a discrete task. You write up a policy, you can probably get it pretty good, but that is not where the major heavy lifting is going on. The major heavy lifting is your governance model over AI policy, right? And that takes ongoing work. It takes somebody who is able to understand what's going on in the AI world, but also adapt to the changing environment and understand that what works today may not necessarily work tomorrow. Um, the organizations that get this right are the ones that are thinking about this right now and putting a robust plan in place. If you're working through AI compliance and starting to think about these issues, I've put together an AI contract red flag checklist. It's free and available on my website at vidarlaw.com/resources. This is a great starting point to start to think about the issues that are involved in AI contracts and agreements. And if you're part of an organization that really wants to beat your competition and get ahead and have a robust AI compliance plan in place and figure out how to assign those responsibilities and how to evolve that over time, that's the kind of work I'm doing with organizations right now. And if you want to have that conversation, I'd love to talk to you. You can reach me through my website at vidarlaw.com. I hope that you have found this episode useful and informative. And I hope that you're able to take something away from this to help you design a process that will not only keep liability off your back, but also keep you ahead of your competition as you're implementing these new AI tools. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.